Hi everybody, welcome. This is the groundbreaking of Ryan's Pocket / Ryan's Park. It's a big day, 3.5 years in coming, and a bit of a strange situation where people are spread out because of the COVID-19. We didn't know if we should have a ceremony or not, but we decided to have a small one, and you'll see we have stations with hand sanitizer and masks, but do what you're comfortable with. I'm here to tell you why we're here. I'm Susan Harvie. I guess this whole thing maybe in some way started with me. It actually started with my son Ryan, who's an adult with pretty severe autism. And I'll just start and talk a little bit about him. I'm not going to speak long. 27 years ago, I put Ryan under the care of an institution. He was 13, and it's something that a family should never, ever have to do. I had no choice. I found myself as a single mother with other children at home, and so that was the option offered to me 27 years ago. I've wanted to bring him home and into my community ever since. Didn't know how to do it, didn't know how that could work. But 5 years ago I retired from my career at counseling, and I decided this is my life's work, was to bring my son into a community and to detoxify his body from drugs, from high stress, because he was in a group home, high arousal for somebody with autism, which means his body was stressed continually. So I had no idea that something called COVID-19 would come along and speed up his arrival at my home. But the minute I knew that congregate care spaces were threatened, for lots of reasons that we're finding out, I just whisked him out without another thought. There he is home. I'm no better equipped than I was 27 years ago. However, it's been an amazing experience because I've learned as a much more mature woman that I know better now. I'm learning what autism is and what it is for him. It's different for every person that has it. But just to step back 4 years, how does that affect this property here? Walking by here on one of my walks, because I had just moved to Kentville, and looked in and saw the for sale sign here and thought, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if I could build a house in there for Ryan and bring him out? And then I thought, well, I read this book on pocket communities, and I was like, well, I'm going to build a whole community for Ryan in there. So I went to see Sandra, the mayor, in Beverly Gentleman, and I thought, they're going to just think I'm crazy, but you know, I've got this little autistic son, and I'm asking about how we could make it happen in a place like this. Well, they were very interested. They're like, we were just reading about pocket communities. So we got talking about it, and then as serendipity will have it, I was talking to somebody who mentioned a developer named John Ghosn, very altruistic man, big heart, would probably love to get involved with something like this. Called him up. Next day we were having coffee at Tan in Windsor. So we have the mayor, you know, a little bit on board. We have a developer on board, and visited many people from any government people that are here today. I've been in your office, as you know, because it is my life's work. Ryan and other people like him need to be in the community, and the government knows that. It's the whole of society has taken a group of people without a voice, and they're the easiest to ignore. And that has to change. We're learning more and more about the value of humans. Every human is equal at birth, and the times are changing. And I know it's a difficult task, but it starts here, because this is a pilot project, and what it's going to be is a space where any citizen that wants to live here can be in one of these beautiful apartments, townhouses, and Ryan and Paul, his friend, Barb, his mom is here, will be living in homes that are completely accessible to them. We designed their home. The reason Ryan didn't work out at home and Paul didn't work out at home, our environments were not accessible to them. We didn't know what that meant. So much stress in the environment, too much light, too many objects around. I mean, it goes on and on. Now that I've had Ryan home, I know what he needs. I know what environment works. We've designed the houses. Our architect is here, huge help, Monica Sweet Apple, in how to make these spaces work. But it is not going to be a community for autism or any other label. It's a community for people. It's a community for people that love other people and want to interact with people, want to be out on their deck and have someone stop by for a cup of tea, want to meet in the common house. It's about social interaction with people, beautiful grounds for people to stroll, walkways. I can just see it, you know, music, group meals, potluck suppers. That's what I'm projecting for this community, and it's like a micro community in a larger community. We want to be, of course, a complete part of the bigger town of Kentville, which has been so welcoming to this whole idea of inclusion. Part of my learning, there are people that see a vision for lives for people with disabilities, such as Ryan and Paul, that think outside of the box of where our society has thought. For one thing, you don't have caregivers overpowering or being in charge of somebody who needs support. You have companions, you have people that meet on the same level. And so these thoughts come from people like Michael Kendrick, who's here today, David Petagnac, who came to the province to speak, Bo Elvin from Sweden, I guess, Jean Vanier, you know, my icon guy, all saying the way we're treating people with disabilities is not right, it's not effective, and these people are people, and let's get them in the community and let's see what their skills are and their values and take away the stresses that have been in their environments that have made them look like they're disabled to a degree far from what they really are. Take away all those stresses and you just have a person that can function and give back. So we're really lucky today to have people here to speak. I'm going to start with Leo Levine, who when I met Leo, he was the Minister of what? Do I have to say what you do now? It's long. Okay, Minister of Communities and Culture and Heritage and Minister of Seniors. However, he was the Minister of Health, and I've been in his office twice to discuss this whole concept. My biggest beef when I went to see Leo was the health department or whatever. It does not serve people with autism in this province. I have looked far and wide for some support for Ryan, who has a severe health problem that's fairly typical to autism. So him not being treated and the skills not being here, my request to Leo was, why aren't the medical schools training people? Why isn't somebody fascinated with this? You know, 60 people out of 100, out of 1 in 60, I'm trying to think of the statistic, it's the fastest growing condition. Why isn't anybody here studying it? Like, I don't get that. So it's a fascinating subject. That's why I went to see Leo. Leo said he encouraged this project. He thought it was amazing. He said, you can go out of province if you need to. And thanks, Leo, because I have done that, and I have found one of the top people in Canada, in Ontario, who is now helping a support team that I now have at the Valley Regional Hospital to help heal my son's illness. So thank you so much, and I'm delighted to have you here, and I wonder if you'd be willing to say a few words.
Well, thank you, Susan, and great to be on the grounds and a future place for for Ryan's Park coming to fruition is wonderful. And I was a little startled actually when I got a notice from Mayor Snow that the groundbreaking was going to happen today, because there's been a lot of water under the bridge since you and I had those early conversations. But as Minister of Health, and a lifetime as an educator, I knew that we were certainly making progress, but not across the life cycle. And that's what fascinated me about this project. That there was, in the back of my mind, there was that fear that we would maybe kind of warehouse our disabled community, and not have them integrated as part of a loving, caring, rich community. And that's what Susan brought to my office. That was the vision. That was the dream that Susan hit me with. And at the least I could do, because I welcomed it and really had some attachment to it from my days of teaching at West Kings High School, where we were a very integrated community for decades now. We've had some of the most disabled children in our school long before it was kind of a mainstream thing to do now. We had those children in our school community, and we worked to integrate them in as many ways as possible. So there was that kind of attachment that I had, but also Minister of Health, realizing we were making progress, but as I said, not across the life cycle. I'll just go back a little bit, and why myself, the Premier, and our guests, our party had taken a very strong interest in autism in particular, because in Middleton, at the Annapolis East School, was the first in-school program in Canada to have autistic children of all stages go to school and have a full program in the school. So in my first campaign in Greenwood, I knocked on the door and there was a family with an autistic child. I go down the street and there's a family with 2 autistic children, and I'm discovering for myself why they're in this area. They're military families who asked to come to Greenwood because of the program at Annapolis East Elementary. And from there, it blossomed outward across the province. And I'll never forget the day of being at a committee meeting of all places. Sometimes we MLAs don't think, committee meetings can change the world. But let me tell you, in 2004, there was a 0 in the Nova Scotia budget for autistic children. That's 2004. That's not a generation ago. And all there was a little bit of help for speech therapy. And the Premier of today made a motion, I seconded, that autism would have a standalone amount of money in the Department of Health budget. And we went from a $0 to $4 million in that committee meeting with one motion, and obviously all parties agreed. So I just wanted to give a little bit of that background of my personal attachment and why, when Susan came to my office, I hope to at least, encourage her in her dream. And so to see the beginnings, the groundbreaking, and what can unfold in this area. This very ground is an area of enlightenment in Kentville. I am not sure what year KCA started here and opened up, but this is what this physical area has been. So I think to see an integrated housing community, I believe is a wonderful initiative. I applaud the mayor and council, all those who've had a hand so far, John, who I've just met, and to see the beginnings here. It will be a phased project. It'll take some years, and I certainly would encourage involvement with Service Nova Scotia and Housing to take a look at this project. And so on that note, where there are probably many speakers, I'm delighted to be here today, and I will continue to do what is possible, because this is a dream that should not in any way, be altered, but is part of communities now that have developed around the world. And why not here in Kentville, the Annapolis Valley, Nova Scotia? The next 3 days, there's not a big big movement on it, but we have 3 days of where we're going to light up signature places in Nova Scotia in blue, as a response to the difficult year that we've had with COVID and tragedies, to speak about Nova Scotia Strong. And this housing complex fits so nicely because it tells who we are as a people, that in the midst of difficulties we can be strong, and this will strengthen our community here in the Valley and in Nova Scotia. Well done, Susan, and call upon me again.
Thank you.
I didn't know that determination you had.
There's my little grandson here. Hi, Elias. Hi, sweetie. Okay, that was great, Leo. Thank you very much. The second speaker is Sandra Snow. And Sandra, you're an amazing human being. When I went in and you took me seriously, it was just like, I love this woman. Anyway, you're great. Thank you.
Thank you. So you're another person I'll call if I get thrown in jail.
Yeah.
I'm just putting that out there. Yeah. There is a story to this, and it's not for publication. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for social distancing, and just thank you for the belief in this. Our Director of Planning hit the nail on the head on Wednesday evening when she said that from a community planning perspective, schools have been considered a neighborhood anchor and focal point, that they define neighborhoods' character and promote a strong sense of community for residents. This piece of land has long been a centerpiece for our community. For decades, it was our school, our anchor. Today, it takes on a whole new life, a new focal point. It truly will be a remarkable place, a showpiece, one of a kind, and perhaps the beginning of a new way of looking at communities. A community's grace and compassion should truly be measured by how they care for their most vulnerable in their society. Ryan's Park will be that yardstick. If you listen close enough today, I'm sure that you can still hear all the dreams and all the joy that this place has been part of over the years. They're cheering us on for bringing a new life to this most beautiful and sacred place. So thank you, Susan, for not giving up on your dream. You shared with us 3.5 years ago. Oh my goodness. And to you, John Ghosn and Encore Developments, for making our dream come true, for making a community. So welcome home. Welcome to Kentville.
Yay.
Thank you.
So next, John Ghosn. I guess I told you how I met John. Here he is.
We didn't meet on Tinder. Good morning, everyone. Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues and friends. Today, it really is my honor to be here as we gather for this groundbreaking event marking the start of construction for Ryan's Park. I thank you all for your participation in this event and your interest in the project. I would like to extend additional thanks to previous speakers, Susan, Minister Leo Glavine, and Mayor Sandra Snow. This has been a much awaited day. Don't roll your eyes, Susan. For many of us, including the municipality of Kentville, who were eager to reinvent this area of School Street and have it become part of the community again, as Mayor Snow mentioned, as it was years gone by with the school. I too share in this anticipation So 3.5 years ago, I received a phone call, as Susan had already mentioned, from a stranger looking to discuss a pocket community in the town of Kentville. Without knowing what a pocket community was, I decided to meet with her in person to respectfully decline the opportunity. We met at a coffee shop in Windsor. I listened to her story, I heard her passion, and I heard her determination, as you all have here today and at various other times. So the stranger was, of course, Susan Harvie. So at that meeting in February of 2017, I said to her, I cannot commit to any more work, especially outside of my home in Halifax. But of course I couldn't completely say no. We instantly had a bond, and I really wanted her to achieve her goal. But I could never foresee that I would be here today. Because, or at least I would be. I knew she would achieve her goal, but I wasn't sure it was going to be with me. So I politely compromised and said I would do what I could to help her fulfill her dream and vision of the community. But I think she took help in his meeting this today. She took it to another level. And I had no idea who I was dealing with. So I've been told they did a survey of successful people throughout the world, and the one common characteristic they all have is, and I don't know, some of you may know it, is one characteristic all successful people have, and it's perseverance. And Susan, of course, has perseverance. So, and for that I will always be thankful. It is truly my privilege to have this opportunity to be part of Ryan's Park and create what is best suited for this community and to work in collaboration with Susan. I just want to quickly add, I have very fond memories of the Valley and Kentville. Back in the early 90s, I had a lot of friends down here, and we used to come down for apple blossom every single year. It's probably one of the best times of my life. I just love the Valley. So in closing, I'd like to leave you with a quote from Max Dupree that I think is very fitting. He was an American author and businessman. He said, "We need to give each other the space to grow, to be ourselves, to exercise our diversity. We need to give each other space so that we both give and receive such beautiful things as ideas, openness, dignity, joy, healing, and of course, inclusion." Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
And we're not supposed to hug.
We're not supposed to hug. So, the final speaker, Michael Kendrick. Now this is real serendipity, because back 3.5 years ago, I found out by accident about the Kendrick report in the early 90s, and I didn't know anything about it, so I inquired and I found a way to network. I wrote to somebody in Australia who had a son called Jackson, and I said, I'd like to do what you're doing, but in Nova Scotia, because she did a similar project, and she said, well, you have somebody there that's helped us, and his name is Michael Kendrick. So I emailed her phone. Yeah, I emailed Michael. My head's a little bit buzzy, and he was actually either in the province or he came shortly, and we met in Chester at a coffee shop, and he came up and saw this site quite soon afterwards, and he's been here to speak to a few of our parent gatherings as well. He doesn't live in the province, he has a summer residence here, but anyway, he's an international consultant working with people that maybe are difficult to figure out, and he's all about community living, moving people into spaces where they're valued and where they have good lives. So I emailed him the other night to say, watch the news Friday night, you might see something, and he said, I'm in the province. And I'm like, could you come up Friday morning? And he said, I'll be there. And he's here, Michael Kendrick.
Good morning. I'll just add to that introduction. I grew up in the Valley and did several university degrees in Nova Scotia. And so I don't know why, but I still think of myself as Nova Scotian. I pay taxes here. That should help, and whatnot. But it is true. I've worked in many different countries, and I've been very interested in the issue of innovation, because without innovations we don't progress. Creating innovations isn't as easy as it may seem, and yet when we do create innovations, we often break ground that benefit more than just the original people in an innovation. In other words, we're creating a pathway of benefits to all sorts of other people by creating, if you like, a small example of what could be done if we did a lot more of it. And so in this sense, this particular initiative is that. This is an option that isn't just relevant for the small number of people that are going to benefit from it, but rather large numbers of people that will benefit from it. And of course, like all innovations, it'll trigger the next one. In other words, some other group will see, well, we'd never thought about that. Maybe we should try that. Maybe put another spin on it that wasn't part of this project. So in that sense, the benefits of innovation aren't always foreseeable in the first phase of an innovation. So in this sense, I'm going to be very grateful that this project is going to go ahead, but I'm also very grateful that it now stands as a challenge to everyone else who says such and such can never be done. So in that sense, it's very heartening and inspiring that in a world of naysayers, and of course in Nova Scotia we're very good at naysaying. We've invested heavily in it and we've reaped the rewards of it. But we wouldn't have plenty of company. And naysayers aren't unique to any particular part of the world, but they certainly get in the way when you're trying to get something done. And so what we need are projects like this one, because they are inspiring, but they're educational. They educate us to the possibility of don't sell ourselves short. Don't sell other people short. To have confidence that there's always another way to do things. And when we have that sense, then we tackle new problems with a certain sense of confidence and hope that we could possibly make a difference, even though when we start out we have no clue where we're heading. But of course that's life. We'd never get up in the morning if we knew where we were going. Somehow we manage, raise families, build businesses, and so on, And so in this sense, just a couple of pointers to point out. Over almost 50 years ago, I worked in the first group home in Nova Scotia. And of course I was young, knew nothing from nothing, much like last week, really, in so many ways. But I was working in a model which in its day was very innovative. But the problem is it's not innovative now, almost 50 years later. If we had stayed with that, we wouldn't have moved forward. So what this project symbolizes for me is the fact that we have all kinds of projects just like this, not identical of course, but other things that we're not doing that we could do and that need leadership. And so in this sense, the benefits of the project are not going to be simply to the small numbers of people involved with this one, but to the example it sets that we should be doing other things like this in relationship to other challenges that are out there. And as you may guess, a lot of people say the reason we don't innovate is we don't have money. Usually that's an excuse. But the real question with innovation is using what you got, not having the resources you don't have. Because no matter what, we'll never have enough resources. And the resource that has made this possible are leaders. We've had leaders from a variety of roles. Some have spoke this morning. There's some that can't be here to speak today. But the coming together of leaders made all of this possible, It wasn't one leader, it wasn't two leaders. It was a variety of leaders starting in many cases reluctantly on this initiative, but nonetheless seeing it through. And so in this sense, the real wealth of Nova Scotia is in its leadership, if we have faith in the leadership and if we cultivate it and come together. because this project was really a testimony to people taking the lead, because at every point people are going to say it can't be done, it shouldn't be done, God wouldn't want it, who knows what, and yet here it is, and this lovely day, it's going to go ahead. So I think that's the lesson I think we should take away from this, that we have other challenges in the province that we equally could be in a moment like this if we realize we've got to invest in our leaders and the coming together of people, because that's how we get there in the long run. Now, you know, you didn't come to hear a little sermon on leadership this morning, but I just think there's so much to compliment by way of leadership in this project, and I just wanted to highlight that, because much of that leadership might never be known, but without it we wouldn't have got to square one. So my compliments to the known and unknown leaders that have made this moment possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. So we're going to we have champagne. We're going to have a toast. I'm going to make a toast when we get some poured here. In the meantime, I just want to thank every person that's here, every person that's watching out there that has a dream or a vision to make community work for somebody, and everybody here in this space right now is a leader in some way, and is contributing to this in some way. We have a few other politicians, Keith Irvin and John Lohr here, and the councillors. I don't want to leave people out, but you're all leaders, and together these kinds of things are happening, and we're going to make life better for the world in general. So Ryan's sitting out in the parking lot. I might get him to come over for a few minutes, and that's my little grandson, Elias. And when we get, people can get up if you want and get your champagne, and then I'll do a small toast. Yeah, because you know what, the land that we're sitting on is like sacred. I mean, 1893, I believe, the first students came through the doors. A lot of buildings have burned down, but just think of the thousands of people that went through here, played here, cried here, learned here, went out into the world, and what a place to be building this type of space, eh? Yeah. Right. Look, there's that gold shovel. Do you want to hold it for a minute? Hold it up. There you go. You want to like dig it down like this. There you go. Enough of that. Where's the champagne?
I tried to get the picture, right?